You know what I was thinking about? I've been thinking about this a lot for the past 3 weeks, is how odd it is. If you're kind of an outsider, I realize you're a political person, you watch I'm right here, but if you're kind of an outsider, just aware of politics, how odd it is that Donald Trump is the one doing all the awesome things that are being done right now. Can we just take a moment and just, one, celebrate this and marvel at how wild this is? First, Donald Trump, he's not some loony lefty, lifetime-wise, but he was a New York Democrat. That's what he was. Now, like I said, he was never some far lefty. I don't want to pretend like he had this complete reversal, but he was a New York Democrat. And then he starts to wake up and realize, oh, hey, things aren't run well in the country. And he loves publicity. And he's really good on TV. He's got some strong thoughts on immigration. So he just decides, well, screw it. I'm going to run for president. This is the first time. And he runs for president. And he wins. America loves the guy. Falls in love with the guy, he wins. But he has no idea what he's doing during his first term. And he has admitted this. He basically almost used those exact words last time I saw him give a speech on stage. He said, I'd never even been to Washington. I didn't know. And so he walks into Washington, D.C., and he thinks he's just going to do what he's always done business-wise. And, hey, let's make a deal, right? Hey, Democrats and Republicans, let's come together. We all want what's best, right? He had that mentality. Look, we all want to make a deal here. We all want what's best. Let's come together and make a deal. But like I said, naive. Just extremely naive. He had no idea who he was dealing with when it came to the communists. He had no idea. I remember like it was yesterday, screaming about the amnesty deal he was trying to strike with Democrats. Trump wanted the border secured. And so in order to get the border secured, he was going to give Democrats amnesty. I remember it like it was yesterday. And they just completely shot the whole deal down, just blew the whole thing up, screaming like rabid animals. He was giving them so much of what they wanted. And I remember how baffled he was by that. And then he watched for 4 years as his own government, as he was the chief executive, his own government attacked him, kneecapped him, and completely destroyed his agenda. From within his State Department, from within really almost every department, he faced this communist resistance from inside the government, from inside his own military. Remember, in Syria, he ordered some troops moved. Hey, I want 1,000 troops moved from here to there. Now, he's the commander-in-chief. There's no ifs, ands, or buts where the buck stops when it comes to the military. The president says you do. He is the top dog. And the generals, when he told them to move, they were just thought, I'm not going to do that. This is crazy levels of resistance. So they impeach him twice. He finds himself not only no longer the president, but they're still coming after him. DA after DA, AG after AG, special counsel after special counsel. They're sending the FBI into his home, and they shot him in the head. Then another guy tried to murder him on the golf course. 4 years of that. 4 years of the presidency. And now this guy who was a New York Democrat like 5 minutes ago walks back into the Oval Office. Now, here's the thing about Donald Trump. Maybe you have, I don't pay attention to every word he says, but I've never heard him claim to be a small government conservative. Have you ever heard him say those words at all? He's much more of a populist, nationalist Republican, more of a Teddy Roosevelt type than a Reagan type, just if we're going with types. But every other Republican I've ever voted for, every other one, has said that they will shrink the government. Government's too big. We're going to shrink the government. I mean, with the exception of this last campaign, when he's talking about eliminating the Department of Education, I'm trying to think if I've ever heard Donald Trump talk about shrinking the government. But he's the only one that's done it. Do you realize how crazy this is? It's amazing to me how effective this guy is right now that he's been shot and arrested and everything else, they've turned this relatively naive puppy dog from New York into a freaking pit bull who's tearing through this government like a blowtorch through butter. 75,000 government employees have already accepted a buyout. Department of Education, bye-bye, see you later. He's got Elon Musk combing through line by line every corrupt budget item. He's coming out publicly, naming the bad actors, where everything is going. This is like, it's honestly, I'm not so sure he's not eligible for a second term, because this isn't even the same person we elected the first time back in 2016. Here's Elon Musk talking about just deleting whole agencies.
Well, I think we do need to delete entire agencies as opposed to leave part of them behind. Because if you leave part of them behind, it's easy. It's kind of like if leaving a weed. If you don't remove the roots of the weed, then it's easy for the weed to grow back. But if you remove the roots of the weed, it doesn't stop weeds from ever growing back, but it makes it harder. So we have to really delete entire agencies, many of them.
Please give me a moment. My heart be still here. We actually have people in power who are deleting agencies. And that brings me back to Trump, of course. Trump, it was odd this time. Maybe you noticed it, maybe you didn't. I certainly noticed it. During the election cycles generally go like this. From our side, it goes the same way the other side, but we'll leave them aside. But from our side, when you're in the primary, when you're in a Republican primary, in general, you run as hard as you can to the right. You try to get to the right of everyone else in the Republican field. But as soon as you win the nomination, if you're so lucky, I've done it twice, as soon as you win the nomination, not that you move to the middle, but you definitely temper things a little bit. Because now, you're kind of banking on the Republican vote. I got all them. Now I have to get all the normies and people in the middle. Trump didn't do that this last campaign. I noticed it. The things Donald Trump was saying post-primary, when he not only was up against Kamala Harris, but was already up in the polls, the things he was saying were things that I've never heard from a presidential candidate at all. Bold, big things, taking big chances. Donald Trump said multiple times on the campaign trail that he was going to eliminate the Department of Education. Now, that is something you probably will hear in a Republican primary, whether it be Congress, Senate, President, whatever. In a general election, nobody talks like that. Donald Trump did, and he's doing it.
How soon do you want the Department of Education to be closed?
Oh, I'd like it to be closed immediately. Look, the Department of Education's a big con job. We're ranked, so they rank the top 40 countries in the world. We're ranked number 40th. But we're ranked number one in one department, costs per pupil. So we spend more per pupil than any other country in the world, but we're ranked number 40.
And now, Linda McMahon is going to get in there, and she's going to eliminate it. Sources inside the White House, it's been widely reported now. It's not like you have to get it from me. They're moving forward to end the Department of Education. Now, do keep this in mind. As we talked about before, there are many pillars that hold up American communism. But the two main ones, the two biggest, strongest pillars that hold up American communism is they're funded by you. They have created a system where they will get the taxpayer to fund their activism. That's one pillar. The second pillar is their ability to educate our children to hate us and hate our country. Those are the two main pillars of American communism. Without those two pillars, American communism collapses. And Donald Trump is going after them hard. They're already cutting $1 billion.
What we're hearing is just complete chaos and, frankly, a whole bunch of cruelty. Because at the end of the day, you can make departments more efficient, and I'm not a big believer in bureaucracy, but this feels like, as Elon Musk said to you, evisceration. So here's a guy who has hundreds of millions of dollars of contracts from these departments, and he's not touching them, but what he's doing is really taking money from kids who really need it in the field, and these departments Yes, they can be much more efficient, but that's what the education department does. It gives out money to kids so you can feed them a decent lunch, so we can have, tutors for reading, so you can actually help kids with math problems. That's what's going on right now.
Her sadness brings me so much joy because I remember what a monster that human being has been. And she knows. That's Communist John Denver, Randy Weingarten, and she knows. She understands what's happening right now as the attack on those American communist pillars. She understands that they are in very, very, very deep trouble. And that actually brings me to the second pillar. We'll move off of that one. The second pillar is, as I mentioned, getting you, the taxpayer, and this doesn't just take place at the federal level. Keep in mind, you're doing this at your state, you're doing this in your town probably, but at the federal level, finding a way to bloodsuck the American taxpayer's money out of his wallet, and then you filter it through this and filter it to that and filter it through this, and in the end, you end up funding the communists who are burning down to your country. Did you hear what Lee Zeldin said, head of the EPA?
An extremely disturbing video circulated 2 months ago featuring a Biden EPA political appointee talking about how they were tossing gold bars off the Titanic. Fortunately, my awesome team at EPA has found the gold bars. Shockingly, roughly 20 billion of your tax dollars were parked at an outside financial institution by the Biden EPA. This scheme was the first of its kind in EPA history, and it was purposefully designed to obligate all of the money in a rush job with reduced oversight. Even further, this pot of $20 billion was awarded to just 8 entities that were then responsible for doling out your money to NGOs and others at their discretion with far less transparency. We will review every penny that has gone out the door. I will be referring this matter to the Inspector General's office and will work with the Justice Department as well.
An entire system. The communists spent 80 years plus building the system we see now, the system that the New York Democrat is currently tearing to shreds. I can't believe where we are, but I am enjoying the heck out of it. I would thank you for coming to my YouTube channel, but I know how brilliant it is, and I know you love it here. So subscribe and watch. We're going to start really ramping things up and putting some funny stuff, some interesting stuff out there, some collaborations. Either way, my YouTube channel is officially the place to be. So stick around.